Okay, good evening, everyone. Want to welcome you guys to SPED 805. This will be section BB for the second 8 weeks. So I recognize some of you on here. Looks like I've had your class before and see some faces. So we do have a few that are gone tonight due to parent-teacher conferences. I realize it's that time of the year. A lot of you guys might be getting ready for fall break, or you maybe just came off of it. So just so you know, moving forward. If you have some conflicts with school schedule, you have activities going on, things like that, I totally understand. I get it. You guys are working adults going through this program. So just so you know, I always record these and they'll be posted later in the evening after we finish the Zoom meeting. If you are not able to attend the Zoom session and you do watch the recording, there will be each week, I'll put participation questions on there. So if you do miss the Zoom meeting, all you have to do is watch the video, pull up that week, that particular week, whether it's week 1, week 2, week 3, whatever week may be. And I'll usually have 3 questions over there that pertain to items that we discussed in the Zoom session. And so that's how you'll get your participation points that week. If you're live with me and on the Zoom meetings, you don't worry about can't answer those questions. What I'll do in the chat box, I will always ask you at the beginning of the Zoom meeting, if you would just pop your name in the chat box. It will record it along with this recording. It'll record the chat discussion, and then after class, I'll go in and add your participation points for the week. You don't need to worry about answering questions if you were attending the Zoom session. Okay, only if you missed, you'll watch a recording and answer the 3. So you guys will go ahead as we kind of are doing this. You can pop in your names. Again, I'll go in after we finish up and I'll add your points on. You'll see them that evening in the grade book. So each week, participation is worth, I believe I put it at 18.75 points over the 8 weeks. And so as we get into the syllabus, I'll bring this out, but I'll always go ahead and tell you while we're talking about it now. If you simply choose not to either join the Zoom session live or go and watch a recording and do your 3 questions. It's not a aha gotcha moment. It'll be specifically over something that we covered. If you choose not to do either one of those, but you ace everything in the course, all the assignments, you max out your points, the way this course is set up, you won't be able to make an A in it without doing the participation. So either join the Zoom session live, or if you miss, watch a recording, answer the questions. Okay, so just know that it's just very important to participate, especially in some of the Zoom meetings. We'll get into some discussions, and that's a lot of times where you learn a lot of interesting things. You might hop on that week and really be struggling with something, and we get into discussion that night on Zoom, coincidentally, and you'll leave knowing, hey, I'm not the only one struggling in that area. A lot of other people around the state of Kansas, or if they're in another state, are experiencing the same thing. So it gives you a little bit better feeling to know that you're not on an island by yourself. And we may talk about some different practices, and you may get some ideas to help deal with some of those struggles and challenges. So anyway, quickly, I'm going to do a screen share. And do the share, talk a little bit about the syllabus, and then I'll get into the course shell, just kind of get you familiar with it. So tonight, we started at 6. I'll probably get you off here by 9 or 9:30. That work? It won't take that long. Probably the longest I ever goes an hour, so you don't have to worry about that. So we love make those comments to see that the shock factor. So anyway, so we have 8 weeks. So really, I'll say when I go over this, really 7 full weeks, because the way this course is set up, the 8th week is short. It's very short. So all the assignments on here, with the exception of one, will be due on Sunday evenings at midnight. I always like to do it Sunday at midnight. As I mentioned, I know most of you all are working adults. I realize things happen during the week, and so giving you the weekend all the way through midnight at Sunday gives you a chance to just kind of work on some of those assignments if you really didn't get to during the week. It gives you a little breathing room there so you're not so stressed trying to meet a deadline if it's earlier. So just know all those assignments will be due Sunday at midnight with except one, and that will be on the 8th week, which is a short week, and it'll be due on Wednesday on or before 4 o'clock. And really, it's not fine. We'll talk about that a little bit later. So, looking at, you'll have your assigned readings on here. That book is listed in the syllabus, and I'll show you where to find that in the course shell. But there is a book, and it is very a helpful book. A lot of the courses that you'll have for ACE, we have tried to go with open education resources to where you don't have to go out and buy a lot of textbooks. But this particular course is one that we did leave the book in because we feel like it will be useful later on in your classroom after you complete this program as a reference. So if you get a chance, obtain that book, and it shows the reading. So the first one's talking a little bit about assessment laws, ethics, and issues on chapter 2 in that book and chapter 1. We'll see our Zoom meetings. They're listed on here. We'll meet each Tuesday at 6 o'clock. Usually it won't even go a full hour. Okay, usually it's about 45 minutes. We're on there and done. Okay, so you'll see the very first week, week 1, the only thing you really have to do is complete the introduction discussion post. Go on, and there's some things that it just asks you to address, just basically introducing yourself, telling a little bit about your background, where you're working at right now, and just some general information so it helps your classmates know who you are and a little bit about you. Also tonight, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about looking ahead at week 2. You'll see the first report is what we call the interview report. It will be the only assignment in this class where you will sign it as a group project. Everything else after the interview is individually, okay? We do incorporate this group project at the beginning because it will help you learn how to work with others. That's a big part of special education, right? Having to learn to work with a lot of people on the IEP team, whether it's the regular education teachers, whether it's service providers. They're providing some related services. So you just have to learn to work with a lot of people, and this will give you experience at doing that. And I'll go into it just a little bit more in just a moment. But after we finish tonight, I will strongly encourage you to go ahead and start self-enrolling in those interview groups and learning who's in that group with you. And I'll show you where to sign up in just a few moments when we do a screen share on the course shelf. Then we'll go into week 3. And this is where we start getting into the individual projects or assignments. We're going to learn a little bit about some different assessments. The first one that we're going to focus on going into week 3 is dealing with informal assessments. And I will share a assessment report format that we're going to ask you to use when you start writing your assessment reports. And then after we do an assessment, whether it's an informal, we'll learn about a normed reference, and we'll also learn about CBM's, curriculum-based measurements. Those will be the 3 main types of assessments that we're going to study about during this course. After you write the report, which is it's very basic, we'll also ask you to develop a lesson plan based on the weaknesses you identified by giving either the informal assessment that week or the normed reference or the CBM. The lesson plan template that we use is one that's often used when our candidates have to go and take the PPAT exam. That's pretty extensive. You have to do some lesson plans for that. Also some video recording of yourself teaching. And so you'll get a little dose of that too as well in this class with the final project we'll do. So again, we will look at learning how to do informal assessment, learn how to do norm reference or work with and interpret those results, and then also on creations. The 3 things we'll focus on. Also, this class you will need to have access to or students that you can practice the assessments on. We call them case study students. So it could be one that you use for each of the assessments, or if you have to use multiple students, that's fine. You're welcome to do that. Okay. So just know that you need to make sure you have access to working with a student or multiple students to complete those assignments. So you'll see after the group interview, which is due on week 3, week 4, you get a little bit of a break here. You don't really have anything due at all. No discussion board, no assessment report assignment. You get a little bit of a break the week of November the 4th through the 10th. Then we'll come in and do the normed reference test. We'll learn a little bit about those, what all those entail, kind of how to interpret those, do a lesson plan for that. Then we'll get right into curriculum-based measurements. Okay. As we get down to week 7. And then for the final, I mentioned to you week 8. Week 8 is short. You remember I mentioned that a while ago. On Wednesday, your final will be due, and that's basically you're going to create a mock IEP video. So what we ask you to do is you will have already given an informal assessment, a normed reference assessment, and a curriculum-based measurement. So you will have that data. You have already done reports, submitted them to me, and I've given you feedback and graded them. You're going to take that information and you are going to conduct a mock IEP interview. You can do it from your school classroom. You can do it at home, your kitchen table, from your home office. And so basically you're going to go through, I will provide you a guide, and we're going to ask you to present information as if you were in an IEP meeting. And essentially you're going to present your data that you've collected from administering those 3 types of assessments that we learned about. So you've already done the work. You're just going to present the information as if the parents were there and the regular teacher, just sharing with them the information that you have learned about that student up to this point to determine whether you need to move forward for initial testing, formalized testing to see if they qualify. So that's kind of the overview of the course, some things that we'll do. It may sound like a lot in a short amount of time, but it's very doable. Especially when we condensed it into the 8-week, it's still very doable. There is one point I do want to point out. I always like to make sure you guys are well aware of it. So when we get to that point of the semester, you think, oh my gosh, we're not done with one, and the guys already start on the next one. But it takes a little while to collect the data. And so right here, we're going to have a norm reference, norm reference assessment report that's due the week of the 17th of November. Okay. I will have already started the week before talking to you a little bit about CBM. And the reason is because when we get down to this CBM report, we're asking you to have at least 5 to 6 data points. That means 5 to 6 times that you give a probe or a little mini evaluation to collect data on that. And start talking about it that early. That way you're not having to rush around and try to get that many data points in less than a week. So I always encourage students way back up around week 5 to go ahead and kind of start thinking about it. And so that's going to be a point when the assignments are kind of overlapping. It's almost like you're working on 2 assignments at the same time. So just know we get to that point, and I will remind you when we get to that point, hey, remember I mentioned the first night of class that we're talking about 2 assignments at the same time and working on them. I'll remind you when we're at that point, so that way you don't get overwhelmed or stressed out, just knowing that we're literally working on 2 at the same time. Okay, it's just going ahead and collecting the data points. What I will tell students when we start looking at the layout of the class and talking about the assignments, just take 1 week at a time. Don't worry about all the stuff that lays ahead of you and thinking, oh my gosh, this is a lot in a short amount of time. Just do 1 week at a time and it's very manageable. And we'll get through it. I'll make sure you get through it. Okay. And I will help you have questions. One thing I want to point out before I get into the course shell, just so you can start thinking about it, and if you foresee it as being a challenge for you and where you work, let me know, and we'll go ahead and start talking about it a little bit in advance, so you won't have to worry about it. Norm reference testing, right here. I realize that's not for another 4 weeks. Something I want you to think about. A lot of your norm reference tests that are out there require a person to have specific certifications and credentials. A lot of them out there require you to be a school psychologist or a school psychometrist, one of the two. There are some on the market that you don't, and I'm going to give you a couple examples and just your school utilizes them. If not, we'll start thinking, hey, do we have a full-time psychometrist or psychologist that I can communicate with and maybe collaborate with and get the information? If you're in a smaller school, you probably don't. No problem. I've got an alternate pathway for you to go through to help you on that assignment. But just know I'm not asking you, and Fort Hayes is not asking you to go out and administer those, especially when you have to have specific certifications. Not asking you to do that. Asking you to collaborate with school psych in your district if you have one. Okay. If not, you don't have access to one. I have an alternate pathway for you to do that. I have a testing lab video. My background's in school psychometry. I was the person that went in and did the testing. So I have a video on there of myself administering a norm reference. It's a WJ4. It's a recording, so you can go in and view that, and then I will provide you with a comprehensive report that's got all the data you need to pull. Okay, so just know if you don't have access to those professionals that have the certification, there's a backup plan. The video is actually already loaded in the course shell just in case. Okay, so start seeing if your district has those certified individuals. If not, the information's in the course shell. That's just something to think about a few weeks in advance. Okay. Any questions on that part before I stop my screen share? I just want to make sure you guys kind of understood the layout for this class.
I have a question.
Yes.
There's a couple in the chat as well, just so that you don't miss those. But I did look online for the book in the bookstore, and it said that there was no required materials when I looked. Is there another way I can find out what book I need so I can get it ordered and on the way?
Yeah, the book is listed in the syllabus. I'll show you in just a moment when I switch over to the course shell.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah,
And then at
exactly.
ours, and then there's something else. Sorry, I forgot what I was gonna say. I'll think about it.
Okay. Yeah, and I'll look at the chat in just a moment when I switch screen. Anything else on this before I stop the screen sharing and pick up the course shell? No? Okay. Give me just a second. It never fails when you need something to be quick and a quick changeover. Your internet access is slow. It's giving me a message that my page is not responding. I'm gonna try to load. the site again, if you'll bear with me just a minute here. I don't know. Okay, on unit. There we go. Should see some course show. You'll see beginning here tab, university syllabus. Under second third serials. So list right here. Title of the book, it's by Overton. Title of the book is Assessing Learners with Special Needs and an Applied Approach. So you will see that again. It's the third section and so everything I have on, but you just it's really key to show you everything I just went over. So assessments, assignments, shows our Zoom meetings are each week. Okay. It also shows a breakdown, the introduction that's going to be due this Sunday is going to be worth 20. Weekly participation points, accumulative is worth 150 altogether. Interview reports can be worth 100 points. Informal assessment report will be worth 100. Norm reference. Test administration report is worth 150. The curriculum-based measurement, it is worth 240 points. Okay, so we will spend a lot of time talking about that information as we get to that point, but it is weighted heavier than the other ones. The mock IEP at the end, the finals worth 195. The peer assessment collaboration, each one of you will complete one of those at the end of your interview project. So you will list all your group members, and also you will include yourself, and you will do a assess or a peer evaluation. So it gives you some items to score your group members on, and then also go and self-evaluate yourself on how you felt you did and contributed to the group. Okay, let's see, it's cover on the story or point. Here are the routes for each thing that we look at. As far as the informal assessment report, here's a breakdown showing the reports will have a section for identifying information, a little bit about the student background, what we're looking for, test results and interpretation, recommendation and conclusion section. That's when you get into administering informal, norm reference, and the CBM assessment report. Okay. The same with the norm reference. I do want to get and show you something so you know where to find it as we talk a little bit about the interview. There is a set of questions to guide you. So for the group interview, I will show you more sign up. So after tonight, we'll self-enroll. And then each of you individually are to select someone that you work with, whether it's your special education director or a experienced special ed teacher. And here are the guiding questions for that interview, for the information you will collect. Starts at the bottom of page 7 in the syllabus, and it goes over to the top part of page 8. So here's some of the guiding questions. Why are certain tests used in the district for testing? Your district may have specific tests that they like to use for benchmarking, just to collect some data to determine whether students are going to show weaknesses or deficiencies to whether you need to move forward for testing. So that's a question you need to try to find out. How often or when are they used? Okay, your district may administer these every 2 to 3 weeks. They might do it quarterly. So that's another question for you to try to find out in your interview. Who can administer formal and informal tests in your district? Does this person administering them need any special training? I mentioned this on the norm reference. I already talked to you a little bit about that. There are a lot of the norm reference that does require additional certifications. The next thing is ask if informal tests are used, and if so, why are they used? If they are not used, ask why. Informal assessments are used to determine if the students are understanding the concepts that you're teaching, the objectives. The various assessments used in special education and why. Your district may require or specify a certain set of assessments to be used. They may prefer or request or require that the WJ4 be used to determine initial placement. Um, they may not. They may use a variety of those. So try to find that out. Ask your person what the difference between formal and informal assessments are. Ask them a little bit about the steps in the assessment process. Okay, what are the steps? We know, Courtney, you can't just go in and say, hey, I think Johnny needs to be tested for special education. Let's pull him in and test him. You can't just do that. There are some steps to go through. You got to have consent. It's a process that doesn't just happen just based on Courtney coming in and saying, I think Johnny needs to be tested because he flunked a spelling test. Okay, there's got to be more to it than that. Ask a little bit about sections of IDA that addresses assessment in that process. Also ask about the role in the family during the assessment process. How involved does your district get the family? Hopefully they're very involved. You want them to be part of the team. You want them to be involved. You want them to feel like they have a part and a say so in the process. You definitely don't want them feeling like they're an outsider. You also want to try to work with them to the best of your ability to avoid due process or any type of formal complaints that might come out, especially if the child's already on an IEP. Also, what type of method does your district use or your person that's involved or has a lot of experience? What methods are used when you're testing students that speak other languages? Okay, so you ask them a little bit about that. Technological considerations when administering tests. What technological considerations do they take into consideration? And then any evaluative comments or remarks that the interviewee might want to share based upon their practical knowledge and experience with tests, with any type of assessment that they think might be relevant and helpful. It's always interesting, Elizabeth, when you get into a group with 4 or 5 other members and you're coming from a variety of districts. Some of your group members may be in a very large district, inner city. Some group members might be in small rural. So it's always interesting once you start collaborating and putting this together, seeing how other districts and their process for testing and determining student qualifying for special services. It's very interesting. Another interesting thing you'll find out through this assignment is the experience level amongst the group. It's always interesting to see that. Courtney, you might be interviewing someone that's got 30 years. Elizabeth may be interviewing someone that's got 5. So you'll see a wide variety of experience levels as well. And so it's a good learning experience. I know a lot of times people, when they hear a group project, they cringe, think, oh no, I don't want to do that. I've had a horrible experience with it. But luckily in this class, 805, and doing this assignment, we've had good luck doing it. Okay, so just kind of wanted to point that out to you in the syllabus. Modules, you can click on this, you'll see a drop. It'll show learning module number 1 is 2 weeks or 2 weeks. It's broken down week 1. Here are some readings and some articles. Week 2, we get into assessment terminology, types of assessment. Everything you'll need right there is in your learning modules. Module 2 is 5 weeks, and then module 3 is the last week, finals week. Okay, so when you click on these, they'll expand, drop down to the individual weeks. Okay, everything. Assignments. Click this folder here. Write down a little bit about it. We'll give descriptions for assignment 1, group interview, assignment 2, informal assessment, assignment 3, norm reference, curriculum-based measurement. So you click on that and it gives a description of it, something for you to follow back up on. We will talk about them in detail when we're preparing for those, but just so you'll kind of know. Assignment 5, which is the finals of mock IEP. Well, drop down here is where you will submit assignments. Click on this folder. There'll be a drop. Assignment 1 is where you'll submit the interview. Once you enroll in the groups, Courtney, I'm picking on you and Elizabeth because your pictures are right there, but I'm doing the screen share. So when you enroll in the group project and you get ready to submit it, one person out of the group is the only one that needs to submit your paper. Okay, you're going to combine and collaborate and put all your information together into one paper. Only one person will submit that. Once it's submitted and I score it, your team member names are tied to group 1 or group 2 or group 3 or group 4. When I score that, it will assign that score. If it's worth 100 points and you made 95, it will automatically post 95 to all your group members. Okay, so you just have to submit it once. But each group member will individually submit a peer assessment rubric, which is a one-page document. You'll go in there, it's in a Word format. You'll put Courtney Sherwood, you'll put Elizabeth Burton, you'll put your other group members, and you will go in there and rate them on a scale of 1 to 4. 1 being not good, 4 being excellent, and it's going to give you a list of prompts on there and just ask you to rate them. No one else sees it. It's for me. Okay, your group members don't see it. You do it individually. Okay. Peer assessment collaboration, each one of you will submit that individually right here at this tab. You'll just click on the link, pop up, and you just attach your document, submit. Assignment 2, individually, you'll submit your informal assessment report. Same thing on assignment 3, 4, and your mock IEP video. Going down the course shelves, just in order here. Here's where you'll see week 1 participation, week 2, week 3. Remember, if you're on the Zoom meeting, week 1 with me tonight, you've already put your name in the chat box. You don't have to worry about clicking on this link and answering the questions. You're automatically going to get the points. But if you happen to watch the video recording because you weren't able to attend live, then you'll go to that week 1, click on the link. It will pop up the questions. It's basically information that we've covered during the Zoom recording. Okay, so that's where you will answer those questions. So to expand, this is where you're going to find your templates for some of the assignments. Okay, peer assessment collaboration rubric. Elizabeth, this is where you will find that document to fill out on your team members. Same thing with you, Courtney. You can download it. It'll be a Word format. After you start self-enrolling in your teams, we'll ask you to complete what we call a team contract. This is where it's basically stating that you agree to fully participate, work with team members, and it gives you kind of a description of different tasks and roles that you're going to do. Elizabeth, your task might be that you're going to be responsible for the final submission of the product. That falls on you. Okay. So Liz or Courtney and Liz, their grades depending on you submitting that paper. That's to be your responsibility on the contract. It'll list different jobs on there for you. Parent permission form. This is something that you will need to have signed by the parent of the case study student or students that you work with. If you want to use one all the way through, that's great. When you submit your assessment report for the informal, the normed reference, CBM, you will also include this parent permission form. Okay. It will have the type of assessment that you're doing. So for informal, you give a brief description of the informal assessment, and you will include it with your assessment report, submit that. Then the next week, even though it's the same student, you will still submit the permission form, and then you will add to and write in the normed reference assessment that you used to create your assessment report. And then you'll do the same thing for CBM. We talked about at the end, also with your assessment reports, doing a lesson plan based off the data you collected. So Courtney, if you did a couple of quick informal assessments targeting math skills, and you notice that Johnny is weak in 2-digit and 3-digit multiplication, then you would write your lesson plan focused around that weak area. Okay. And then you would just submit it with that week's assignment. Okay. It has a lot of the information typed in for you. You just have to put your answers for it on the lesson plan. A lot of the information is already there. You download it, it's in a Word format, so it's easy for you to just go type in your information. Okay. Sample of assessment reports. Click on this real quick. Oh, I'm gonna click on my other one. I always get mixed up on this. We get into writing your informal assessment report, your norm reference, and your CBM. I have posted examples that other students from previous semesters have submitted. So you can literally go to and pull up an example of what the informal assessment report looks like. Each time that we're doing one, you can pull up an example what the norm assessment report looks like. And for the CBM, we pretty much use the same format all the way through. You'll see a heading for background information, section for introduction, test results and interpretation, and conclusion section. Okay, so you can see reports when you click on those tabs there. I have a template you can use for norm reference. It's a bell curve scoring template. I use this a lot when I go in and do testing, contract out and do that still to this day. I use this bell curve scoring template and I put my data in there and it plots it in that bell curve. So this will come in very handy. It's at the beginning, you did not have access to an alternate way to do the assignment. And I said there is a testing lab video right here. The video is already loaded if you need to use it. Okay. If you do, that's fine. If you have someone in your district you can work with, it's fine. Okay. The recordings. Any questions?
I'll be honest, with some of the things that you're saying, it was just chopping up and we couldn't hear you.
Okay.
So I was trying
Hear
to
me
follow
now?
along. Yeah, it's just because in and out. I don't think I'm the only one, right?
Okay. Okay. My
Yeah.
apologies for that. I don't know
Oh,
what's
it's
going
okay.
on
I
with
just
my
wanted you to
connectivity.
know.
Okay. I
Yeah.
appreciate it. To sign up for your groups for the group project, at the top, you see all these tabs in the course shell. The last one says groups. You will click, it pops up. Is the interview groups. You can call review groups. And it's where you will go, will be group 4, 3, 2, and group 1. Okay. And you will self-enroll. Is everyone able to see that and follow along? Kind of where to find that? I would encourage you tonight. I'm going to stop my screen share quickly. Think you tonight go self-enroll. I know that's not due for a couple of weeks, but you can self-enroll, find out who you're going to be working with, and then message them, go into Blackboard Messenger or the course shell, and go ahead and reach out and try to coordinate ways to communicate. Different ways in the past that the interview groups have communicated with each other. They may try to schedule like a Google Meets, or they may schedule a Zoom meeting to kind of collaborate one night. Another thing that's worked out really well with those group interview projects is once they get established, they will create a shared Google Doc. And that way each group member can go in and they literally can drop their information in to that doc. And so with each of you having things going on with school and busy schedules, it pretty much gives your group members 24/7 access to it, to where they can go in and drop their information in there. And then, as you get closer to the due date, you might want to collaborate again on a Zoom or a Google Meet with each other, with your group, and just make sure everything's good and in good order before you submit. So that is a way that the groups have successfully worked together, knowing that this is an online class. I don't know what we would do without Google and shared docs. It really makes it handy to do that. So one good way, I'm going to look at my chat box here. Someone indicated online bookstore. I showed you guys in the syllabus where you could find that. One thing is that the bookstore doesn't have it. I will tell you, a lot of times when I was even going through my doctoral program, we would go through and get our books through Chegg, CHEGG.com. You can literally go on there and order it. You might be able to get on there and order it this evening, and usually within 2 days, it's dropped, delivered at your house by UPS. I mean, it's pretty quick turnaround. So that may be an option for you as well if you're trying to get your hands on that book for the class. So like I've been cutting in and out. So I see a lot of messages on there. So
It seemed to be just when you were trying to like interact with the screen
yeah.
sharing. You're clear now.
Okay, well, good. I think probably I had too many tabs open, honestly, is probably what a lot of it was. So one thing too, I forgot to mention, just kind of circling back on the norm reference, I told you I'd mentioned you might check on your districts as far as some assessments. So star reading and star math are considered a norm reference test. Okay, a lot of districts use those two assessments for benchmarking purposes. So you might check on to see if your district has been utilizing those. Another type of norm reference assessment that your district maybe has used or is currently using that's very popular is MAP, NWEA MAP testing. If they had been giving MAP test, and with your particular, I see Shannon was shaking her head, nodding. If like with your case study student, if you can get your hands on some of that MAP testing data, you can literally pull it and use it. The main focus is being able to, for this assignment, is being able to take that data and learn how to kind of interpret that and determine their strengths and weaknesses. So that may save you some stress if your districts use that map. Start communicating with your building level principal or who oversees that map testing to see if it's going to be possible to get that data on your students. So there are three that I mentioned that are fairly common in school districts: star math, star reading, and map testing. Okay. And again, a lot of times the district goes for benchmarking purposes, but they are considered norm because they are compared to other groups of students that are similar in age and demographics. So
I was gonna
any,
say, we
go ahead,
use,
Shannon.
we use MAP, and they prefer that. That is one of the things that we pull in as we're writing our IEPs in the PLAF section of like their
Yeah,
current level,
absolutely.
because we do it 3 times a year.
Yeah,
So
yeah. A lot of times they do it 3 times. They'll do
yeah,
early on, about after the first month of school, kids get settled, they'll go through and do it. And a lot of times they will either do it right before Christmas break,
Yep.
or they may do it after they return from Christmas break. And then a lot of times they will do it again some end of March and
Yeah.
scares getting toward the end. So that's kind of the time frame on that. But reading one. The first one for this year, I don't know, Shannon, where your district's at. You might be able to get that. If not, if they haven't completed that, but they've been given it the previous years, you could pull last year's ending data to help get you started for that norm reference. So I figure most districts probably
Yeah, I have
have.
access to all of it. Yeah, I do, just because I teach reading and special ed English, so I have access to all that.
Yeah.
So,
So,
yeah.
so you're fortunate there. You have access to
Yeah.
all that. So right there at your fingertips. So any other questions?
When will those group things open up so we can start selecting group?
They should be open now. Looked like I already had two students that have self-enrolled when I was doing that screen share. Should be 4
Mine said that
groups.
we can't do it until after 7.
Oh, okay. I put 7 o'clock. I thought, okay, my bad. You're right. I did. But it looked like there was 2 student names in there, so that's kind of odd. But yes, I did put 7 o'clock, right? I anticipated Zoom would be over with right at 7. That way you could log on. So yes, thank you.
So when we're picking our groups, we don't know who we're picking. We're just throwing ourselves in either group 1, 2, 3, 4, and
That's
then
correct.
that's
Yeah,
everybody. Okay.
yeah,
Right.
that's correct.
Okay.
Yep, each group has a limit on there, so not that way you don't have 10 students in each group. There's a limit of 6 per group on that. So if you try, let's just say, Shannon, you go on there and there's already 6 people and you try to get in group 1, it won't let you. It'll make you enroll in another one. Okay, so it's just that way it evens it out. We don't have 10 or 12 in one group. Okay, guys, on my emails too, so you know, I'm an early morning guy, so I like to check those early in the morning. Oftentimes I've checked them and finished up on or before 8 o'clock. It's not uncommon for me to get on there at 5:30 in the morning. I'm up, so I'll check. And then I also come back sometime 5 p.m. or shortly thereafter, and I check those again. So if you email me after 8 o'clock a.m., please know that I will get back to you when I check on around 5 o'clock. Okay. If you email me later in the evening, like 8, 9 o'clock, I'll see it early the next morning. So that's kind of how I check those. I like to do them early in the morning, and then I usually come in right sometime right after 5 p.m. and I'll pull them up and start replying to messages that I got through the day. On assignment submissions, I like to try to have those back to you early, as quick as I can. So if they're due on a Sunday evening, I like to have them all reviewed, scored, and returned to you by the middle of the afternoon on Tuesday. I don't like to go later than Tuesday if at all possible. If you submit early and I see that it's been submitted, I'll go ahead and review it, score it, and get it back to you. Okay, if you by chance happen to submit it before that due date. One other thing before we go is I mentioned this briefly. I know you guys are all working adults. Some of you may be involved in extracurricular activities or extra duties at school. You have family at home and you're trying to go to graduate school. I understand that. I get it. Life happens too sometimes. If you see we have a due date coming up and you're going to be in a bind because it's just been a horrible week at school and you've had all, IEPs coming up and various meetings you got behind, email me, let me know what's going on. I'll work with you on that, give you some extra time, but let me know and communicate with me in advance. Don't wait until Sunday night at 11:30 and all of a sudden send me an email because I won't see it. So just let me know in advance. Hey, it's been a tough week. I need some extra time. I'll give you some extra time. Just communicate with me and let me know, okay? I'll work with you. All right. I want you guys to get through this course successfully. We'll work through it and I'll help you in every way I possibly can. Okay. Remember, just take it one week at a time. It sounds like a lot, but it's very doable, and just worry about one assignment at a time. Okay. Any questions? Please email. You know my schedule. I'm returning those, and I would strongly encourage you when we get off here in just a second, go on there and self-enroll. I've got it for 7 o'clock where that opens up. Okay.
I have a question. Me and another person in the chat asked for the mock IEP, if we could actually record one of our IEPs we have coming up.
Okay, so what we do, we won't be able to do that because there's some confidentiality things. I'll need you to basically just record the mock of you presenting your information that you've collected by administering assessments. Okay, and you can do that at home. When going back to your question again, you have confidentiality issues, and those parents may not feel comfortable with it. So we just try to avoid that if all possible, and just focus on presenting your data that you've collected by doing the informal, the norm and the CDL. Okay. Any other questions? No, everyone good? All right. Hey, I look forward to working with everyone the next 8 weeks. Before we know it, we're going to be talking about our final exam and talking about Christmas break. It's on that quick. It's hard to believe, right? Okay. Thank you guys, and I look forward to talking to you next week. Have a good evening. Thank you.
Thank you.